Is Patrick Bateman a serial killer? Or is it all in his head? Most people think they know the answer after watching the film, but director Mary Herron's answer might surprise you. There's a long list of evidence supporting the claim that Bateman has to be imagining everything. To begin with, he starts his killing spree after an ATM machine tells him to feed a cat to it. He uses a pistol with unexplained skill to somehow explode a car. He murders a woman with a chainsaw nobody hears. The bodies of his victims disappear. He confesses to people several times throughout the movie, but nobody takes him seriously. And at the end, his lawyer tells him Paul Allen, whom Bateman thinks he killed, isn't dead. It's clear that the guy is disconnected from reality. This is established subtly from the start, through Bateman's skewed priorities like Valentino suits and dinner reservations.
In the morning, if my face is a little puffy, I'll put on an ice pack while doing my stomach crunches. I can do 1,000 now.
Note that during the opening narration, he mentions the building he lives in before his own name, and he's defined by consumerism, living in the language of ads, and driven forward by consumption. With all this in mind, it's not hard to justify the reading that Bateman only imagines himself to be a murderer, and we can say for sure that Bateman's point of view does not represent objective reality. But while some interpret the final conversation with the lawyer as proof that the murders are hallucinated, the director has rejected this reading. In an interview with Charlie Rose, she said,
"People keep coming out of this film thinking that it's all a dream, and I never intended it. All I wanted was it to be ambiguous in the way that the book was. I should have left it just more open-ended. It makes it look like it was all in his head, and as far as I'm concerned, it's not."
Author of the source novel, Bret, Easton, Ellis, has suggested American Psycho wasn't meant to be a movie. He has said that the problem is, quote, "The medium of film demands answers. You can be as ambiguous as you want with a movie, but it doesn't matter. It's still being answered for us visually." For Ellis, the story is actually less interesting if we answer the question of whether this is real or happening in Bateman's head. For the author and the director, the ending of American Psycho just isn't about this question. And that's because American Psycho is not really a story about murder. It's about yuppie culture, the melding of identity, and the craving to stand out from a superficial, homogenized society. Okay, but if it wasn't all in his head, then why is the ending so absurd? For one, because Patrick Bateman's interpretation of the world is skewed by his inflated ego and his evident psychosis, as well as presumably multiple mental illnesses, from narcissistic personality disorder to borderline personality disorder, and of course he's a psychopath. Patrick Bateman is a killer, but still he's not the killer he thinks he is. As he goes insane, he can't distinguish reality from fantasy. His over-the-top Chainsaw Massacre-style killings may be an aestheticized elaboration on partial truths. Ultimately, the film doesn't care. The bigger point of the movie's absurdity is that within his society, Bateman's not the psycho at all. He's just one more normal guy, amidst a horde of uncaring, detached from reality, secretly discontented American psychos. Immersed in the hedonism and greed of 1980s New York yuppie culture, Bateman is surrounded by like-minded, superficial people obsessed with all the wrong things, like making impossible reservations at Dorsia and the tasteful thickness of their business cards. Within the homogenized upper-class elite, identities blur as everyone strives after a generic yet highly specific image of success. Earlier in the film, when Paul Allen greets Bateman, he mistakenly refers to him as Halberstram, who works for the same company, has the same job, wears Valentino suits and Oliver Peoples glasses, and goes to the same barber as Bateman. But everyone we see in Bateman's company appears to be the same person. It's no wonder that identities are constantly mistaken and swapped throughout the film. That the lawyer has mistaken Paul Allen, or perhaps Bateman has, and killed the wrong person becomes not only plausible, but also an expression of the general confusion resulting from the loss of individual identity.
I simply am not there.
Meanwhile, although Bateman tries like the rest to fit in, the emptiness of his lifestyle also fuels a craving to stand out. In order to escape the conformity that he on some level despises, Bateman leads a second life, as a killer, where he's unfettered from the bounds of society. Although he actually wants to be seen as a murderer, as someone different from the rest of society, Bateman is denied even this satisfaction by every self-absorbed yuppie he meets, who ignores his confessions or thinks he's joking.
I need to engage in homicidal behavior on a massive scale, but I have no other way to fulfill my needs. We need to talk.
Talk about what, Patrick? Nobody comes running when they hear a chainsaw in the stairwell. They're actually too self-involved to care. When he's seen stuffing a body into the trunk of a car, the witness is only interested in
where did you get that overnight bag?
The final scene contains an homage to Sartre's No Exit, a play about 3 people trapped in a room that is revealed to be hell. Here, behind Bateman, we see a sign that reads, "This is not an exit." At the end of No Exit, the characters have the freedom to leave the room, but they can't bring themselves to do it. They're too obsessed with how the others perceive them. Likewise, in American Psycho, Bateman achieves no catharsis. He's trapped in his own personal hell because he requires the recognition of the other yuppies to confirm his identity as a murderer. The irony is that Bateman's real crimes may as well be fantasy. The lack of acknowledging his reality drives Bateman further into madness and existential despair.
This confession has meant nothing.
Both the film and the novel end with ambiguity, asking us to examine our own distorted points of view or detachments from deeper reality.